Good morning, good morning, good morning. Listen, you know what time it is. You know what time of the morning it is. It is time for Conversations with Renee. And you know what I'm going to tell you before we even start, right? So at this moment, you guys can just recite it with me. This is the day that the Lord has made, and we shall rejoice and be glad in it. Listen here, y'all. I tell you, I have good conversations. And people ask sometimes, well, what are the interview questions? And I get, listen. I don't do the interviews. Interviews to me, just me, this radio personality, it kind of can become impersonal. But when you have a conversation, I feel like you bring out the very nature of the person that you're speaking to. And that's exactly what was taking place just before we allowed you access to our conversation. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys in on some conversation that I'm having with Mr. Christopher Timberlake, born in Philly, y'all. So we up north. I like them up northerners. We understand each other. It's direct, right to the point. You know what I mean, Christopher? Can I call you
Yes,
Chris?
absolutely.
Okay, okay. Chris, we was talking, weren't we?
Yes, we were. And like you said, I understand conversation. I don't like those superficial conversations.
Right.
Like just get into the nitty-gritty of what you want to know or what you are trying to understand. And then at that point, everything else will just flow.
Yep. Yep. And that's what I'm saying. And this is the thing. And like I said, kind of going back to conversation versus interview. In an interview, you're putting a person on a kind of like in a position where they have to think about and monitor in a sense what they say because it has to fit something, and it takes them out of
Mhm.
their normal function of whoever they are. You understand what I'm saying? And so
Yes.
interviews can come across as cold, or I mean, you find out information, but who is the person that you're talking to?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I want to my thing is I want to start a podcast, but I've been doing my research and so forth and so on, and they have questions and blah blah blah, but like yourself, it's just about having a conversation. You
Mhm.
don't have to pre-prep the person, if you will, to have a conversation. It just flows.
Absolutely. And I think also that we are beginning to, well, not even beginning, I'm going to say we have lost the art of conversation. And it then,
Mm.
it really, because we've lost the art of conversation, we have done a terrible job with communication. And that's why we have so many jargons and, LMM, MLB, and all these little acronyms. And it's like, what did you just say? You know what I mean? It's like,
Yes.
right? And I even say it's almost even simple as this too. When I talk about simplifying communication, how many times, and I'm just going to ask you this, how many times have you said, "Hey, how you doing?" to somebody, and they may nod or recognize that you've said something, that you verbalized something, but they don't respond?
Quite often, and that is for me, it's it's bothersome because I've come to find out that a lot of people only ask how you doing as a conversation
Yep.
filler.
Yep. Yep.
I don't, and I tell people, don't ask me how I'm doing if you don't want my response.
And that part.
And not saying that my response is going to be crazy or loaded with a lot of negative stuff. No, it's just that if you're allowing me to unpack everything that I might be dealing with,
Yep.
allow me to do that. I don't need you to talk. Just listen to me.
Yep.
But
Absolutely.
like you said, the art of conversation has going out the window, and now social media has been the true downfall of a lot of things.
Absolutely. And you know what? It has been the downfall, but for people who are able to communicate, it has been an amazing tool for us to use to navigate what we need to get across, whatever it is, platform, whatever we're putting out or whatever. It's a great tool to use for those who know how to use it effectively. And
Mhm.
it's wild that you said that though about the when people, are you ready to hear what I want to say? So the thing is, I'm the same way. I'm like, when I say, hey, how you doing? If somebody says, okay, I really will follow up and be like, just okay, or could it be better,
Right.
something like that, because I'm going to engage you in conversation. Because people, I don't know if they know that the less we speak or the less we effectively communicate, the smaller our brain becomes, and it becomes a little bit more difficult to be able to interpret and understand anyway.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. And I know one thing that my past relationship taught me was to listen to what people don't say versus listening to what they do say.
Absolutely.
There's a
Absolutely.
lot of there's a lot of what do I want to call it? Just I guess misinformation if you solely focus on what the person is saying.
And see, but we're teaching, well, let me say that we're not teaching. What we have come to do when it comes to communication is now we are speaking so that we can be heard, but not in a manner where we're actually hearing, right? The other thing,
Mm.
the other thing is, this is what really trips me out as well. When people go, "Oh no, I'm a good communicator." And I'm like, they'll go, "I'm a good communicator." And I'll ask, "Are you an effective one?" And then they'll look at me like, "What?" And I'm saying, because you may be able to spew words, right? Even put together
Right.
those 50-cent words. But if the people or persons that you are giving words and information to are not picking up what you're laying down, you're not effective. And so there's a lot of teachers, and I mean, I'm a word person, right? Because I believe that there's a difference between teachers and educators as well. We have a lot of teachers who believe
Hmm.
themselves to be good teachers, but their students are not getting what they're putting down or what they're giving to them because they're not effective communicators.
Hmm. Absolutely. And even for me, being the age that I am, I will tell anybody, I'm just truthfully, I'm just beginning to learn how to effectively communicate.
Hmm.
And I know a certain words that we should use. I'm not gonna say have to use that we I'm sorry, I'm not gonna say that we should use, that we should probably use or try to use,
Hmm.
because that will convey the message a lot simpler and more clear than what, if you have a person that's trying to use these big words
Hmm.
and either they don't know what they mean or they may have just learned that word earlier that day, and they're like, okay, well, let me use,
Oh my gosh.
this philosophical, analogical type of word. And it's like, wait, what?
Wait,
Just speak regular, like, because I feel like sometimes you can tell when a person has learned a word.
wait, Chris. The funny part is, right? Because my listeners know I am so transparent. I've got a story for everything, Chris. So listen. So
Okay.
when I was younger, I used to study the thesaurus, right? Because I was
Hmm.
one of them people, I'm gonna use these big words. So I was like, I went to school that day, and I would have like a word for the day or a word for the week. And I went to school that day and I was like, oh my goodness, that is so monotonous. That is so monotonous. That is so monotonous. And I just was using it until somebody was like, are you saying monotonous? No, no, no. I'm sorry. I kept saying monotonous. I'm like, that is so monotonous. And they like,
Oh.
what are you talking about? And I was like, oh, the teacher is so monotonous. And someone was like, Renee, do you mean monotonous? And I'm like, oh,
Mm, mm,
yeah.
mm.
Right. And so when you're
See?
right. So when I hear people do that and they use these words and they screw them up and don't get me wrong, it's nothing wrong with wanting to increase your vocabulary. It's not.
Right.
But you also sometimes have to read the room, right? You don't need to use the big words if you're talking to a 6-year-old or an individual who has clearly showed you that they're not able to, and not for something negative, but they're just not able to process what you're saying. You know what I mean? Don't try to
Right.
show off and, okay, so you went to college and, or you've got some letters behind your name, you've got certified, you got training. Can you break it down to me? I tell people in other fields all the time, especially computers, well, what you have to do is link this to the certificate. And like, hey, listen, can you do it for dummies? What I do? Do I plug this stuff right here?
Exactly, exactly. And but like you said, the letters behind a person's name, that's all it is.
Yeah.
Because I feel like people truly try to um I'm not going to say act smart. Yes, I am. Some people try to act smart.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know if you are like a sports person, but Stephen A. Smith, he
Mm.
uses words that I'm like, wait, what? So I'll try to break down the word, use my context clues,
Right.
and break down the word, and then I figure out what it is. I'm like, why couldn't he just say the layman terms of it versus you want to use the thesaurus and Encyclopedia Britannica words?
N-
Like,
Okay.
bro, come on, man.
You just let me know your age when you said Encyclopedia Britannica. So I'm
No,
gonna.
no, 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 I didn't. Just don't. Yes, listeners, listen, please. Audience, I don't. I'm not sure what you call your people, but please do not listen to her because I'm very, very young. I am 25 years old,
Okay.
but you gotta add another 19 years to that 25.
No, that is too funny. But I was because I was just getting ready to say, I don't know how old you are, but and when you said the encyclopedia, I said, well, now I'll tell him and he'll get it. You know what one of my favorite characters were, Chris, was
Mm.
the character on In Living Color, the guy who was locked up, and he would always personificate the realization of the naturalist.
Yes.
Oh, that was my
Yeah,
favorite.
I forgot. I know it was Damon Wayans, and I think his character was like Brother Shabazz or something like
Yes.
that.
If
So
you
yeah,
personicalize the
exactly.
colonification of, oh, he was my favorite character.
There you go. Yep. Yep. And that's what people do nowadays. They really try to justify how they speak. And I feel like if you just use regular words,
Yeah,
everybody will understand you. And like I said, I'm still learning how to effectively communicate.
right.
I'm still learning how to allow a person to continue their sentence, continue their thought before I speak. But I only speak because I may lose my train of thought.
Got you. I got you. And I'm gonna tell you I think I was always an over talker. I really was. And then I worked in customer service for years. And I
Mhm.
worked in it and then I trained trainers to teach customer service. And
Mm.
I learned a lot from that. Even one thing, and this is years ago, but something that I still put into practice. It is the last thing that we say to someone that actually holds their remembrance. We could say a whole lot of things, but it's the last thing that they actually hear. And so the example was in our training to train trainers was instead of saying, don't forget to lock the door, you say, remember to lock the door. And it's just little small things
Mm.
like that that I've
Right.
always remembered, and I choose to, and I choose to speak that way, that whatever
Mhm.
I say last is going to be very impactful. No matter whatever I said prior to that, what I say last is going to be impactful. And then it was also something that gave me the premise of my first book I wrote. My first book
Mhm.
was A Minute to Think About It. And in doing some research and an understanding, it takes less than 60 seconds to change a negative thought into a positive one. And so I
Uh,
used to always say, think about it, right? And
mhm.
I remember in teaching uh, the trainers for customer service, it said our language should always be that of a positive manner, even if you have negative things to say. And so the
Mhm.
example that I remember from that was it was a scenario or a story of a man who went into the market looking for bananas and they didn't have any. And instead
Mhm.
of saying, no, we don't have any bananas, which is true, it's factual, but it sounds negative. It said, yes. It was like the response from the retailer was, yes, we have no bananas. And I'm
Mhm.
like, at first, back then, I'm thinking, that was stupid. That doesn't sound right. But no, he really did. He said, you
Mhm.
don't have any bananas? I agreed and I affirmed and validated his statement by going, yes, we have no bananas. You know what I mean? And it's just
Right.
taking a minute to think about the things that we say because they're powerful and we ingest the very words that we put out. So,
Mhm.
I'm really big on affirmation and speaking positive, and I'm not talking about acting like things don't exist. But I
Right.
really am, I'm about being purposeful and intentional on the way we speak because it molds and shapes who we are, our perspectives, and our perception.
Yes. Yes. I agree with that. And to kind of not kind of, but to piggyback off of that, um, somebody that I was talking to recently had told me because I'm a person I like to joke around. I'm silly as I don't know what,
Hmm.
but I'll always say, I'll say something. I'm like, oh, I got issues.
Mhm.
And this person was like, as long as you talk to me, you're not going to say that. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'm just joking. I'm like, I'm joking.
Mhm.
And she was like, I get it, but watch what you say.
Yes.
And I thought about it. I'm like, okay. Even though I know I don't have issues, it was just something that it was a routine for me to say basically.
Mhm.
And now that I do my best to pay attention to be super present in what I'm saying
Yeah.
so I can hear myself. So if I say that, then I'm like, oh, no, I don't have issues.
Absolutely.
And it's like also another thing she told me, because I'm gonna be transparent. I would say GD a lot. Like if I do something, I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, gee, damn.
Mhm.
And she was like, oh, whoa, whoa, no, we're not doing that. And I'm
Mhm.
like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm not saying God, I'm saying GOT.
Mhm.
She was like, it does not matter. That's still blasphemy.
Mhm.
And I thought about it, and I'm like, okay, because sometimes somebody may say God
Mhm.
instead of GOT. So now I am conditioning myself, not
Yeah.
programming, but
Yeah.
conditioning myself to just say, if I do something wrong, I'm like, damn, I messed that up, or whatever the case is, instead of saying GOT
Mhm.
or God. And I said that for years.
Mm.
And people always say, oh, it's hard to change this, that, and the third. But if you truly understand the power of
Ooh.
words and
Absolutely.
how the words will affect you and affect your thought
Absolutely.
process,
Mm.
you will see and understand why you should change what you say about yourself.
Because that is more than half of the reason why people are still in bondage to themselves. I always say that where you are is
Hmm.
not necessarily where you ought to be. If you step out of the realm of self incarceration and to be free, you can get out of your own box, right? And you're absolutely right. When people say stuff, oh, dang, that was a stupid, I'm so dumb. I'd be like, don't say that. No, I'm just saying. And I'm like,
Hmm.
no, don't say that. You're pronouncing something over yourself that now you have to actually, you don't even realize psychologically and emotionally and spiritually fight out of because you've already pronounced it over yourself. So if you're going to say something, even if you've made a mistake, it's like, oh, you know what? I can make a better decision. Again, a
Hmm.
positive statement that you're pronouncing over yourself. I used to say the thing, it was a saying back in the day, be like, man, oh, I'm mad. That mad. And I was like, Renee, stop saying that because you're not mad. But then when you start
Right.
thinking about it a little bit more, it did make you mad. So I was like,
Hmm.
stop saying that. And one more thing I can't stand is people saying, oh man, that made me feel some kind of way. I'm like, well, what way did it make you feel? Like, let's identify the emotion. Let's go ahead on and acknowledge what it is. What kind of way did you feel? You know what I mean? It's like because again, we escape dealing with our feelings.
And if you notice, when people say something makes me feel a certain kind of way, when you ask them, oh, I don't know.
Right.
So if you don't know, what did you say it for?
Right.
And one thing that I've learned, and from therapy, I don't go into therapy anymore, which I need to go back. However,
Well, I mean,
the
my
two
schedule is open, so we could talk about it. Hmm.
okay, oh, see, that's off airtight talk. That's off airtight talk. I love it. Um, but two things that I remember my therapist would tell me is that before you respond, take 30 seconds to 45 seconds to digest what that person said
Yep.
and respond accordingly.
Yep.
And then the other thing she told me too is it's okay to feel your feelings.
It is.
A lot of people don't want to sit with the feeling that they may currently have, is because I feel like one, it's scary,
Mm-hmm.
and for two, they don't know how to sit with it to unpack it.
Mm-hmm.
And but once you unpack your feelings, you'll see that half the stuff that we get mad about is something that is minute.
Very, very,
And
definitely.
people ask me all the time, like, yo, Chris, do you have bad days? I'm like, hell yeah.
Mhm.
But my thought process allows me to process it, figure out a solution, and then move forward.
So you all up in my wheelhouse. Here is my little My thing that I came up with. You have to first
Let's
be
go.
real with what you're going through,
Mm-hmm.
deal with what you're going through so that you
Mm-hmm.
can heal from what you're going through. So those three things you got to be real, deal, and heal. That's a simple formula. 1 + 1 = 2. You know what I mean? Like that is how you do it right then and there. And like you said, I tell those I have strategy sessions with, allow
Mm-hmm.
yourself to have the feeling, because if you don't, it's going to find its way through something else, and then it's going to become a issue, a challenge, a bondage, a habit, or something that's going to be greater than if you just took that time to sit with that feeling or that emotion, right? So,
Correct.
I am to know that you are the author of the book Speak What You Seek. The power of selection. Talk to me about that. And you did it during COVID. See, COVID wasn't as bad as we kind of figured out to be, because people found out that they had a greater calling and a greater purpose.
You are absolutely right. COVID was something that brought out a lot. And I started writing my book before COVID.
Hmm.
And I just kept tweaking it and tweaking it and tweaking. I think I started writing my book in either 2017 or 2018.
Hmm.
And then I just kept adding stuff to it, taking stuff away, adding stuff to it, taking stuff away. So when I got to my final copy, I was satisfied. And my book is not a long read. And a
Okay.
lot of times, with the microwave mentality that people have these days, my book will be a perfect thing because it allows you to go through a process.
Hmm.
But more importantly, in my book, I give you space um to write down your thoughts. Like if I ask a question or something that I said resonates with you, then you have space to write things down.
Hmm.
And my book just came from life experiences.
And so I just want
And
to add a scripture to that, because we do understand, well, people know that this is a platform, based on inspiration and, what I follow and my spiritual convictions. And there
mhm,
is a scripture in Revelations, I want to say 12 and 11, or 11, 12, that says that people are won over by the words of our testimony and by the blood of the Lamb. That's what sometimes people are afraid to do too, is just tell their
mm,
story. But their story needs to be told, because somebody needs to really glean from it and receive their own freedom out of that. Like, it's real stories. We're called living epistles, read of many. If those who read the Bible are reading stories, well, we as people living now, people are looking at our lives, right?
mhm.
Reading our story or looking at our story. And sometimes you may get the wrong story or the wrong message until you read the foreword, or the back of the book, to see what it's about, or unless somebody tells that story. So I just wanted to just interject, because that's really good.
No, that's fine. And just from and when I talk to people, I tell them when I speak to you, I'll speak from life experiences. If I have not experienced something, I'm not going to tell you, "Oh, I know how you feel." Nah, I can
Right.
only imagine how you feel.
And sometimes, even
And
if you experience the same thing, you still don't know what their exact feeling is. You know what I'm saying? You can relate
that
maybe to
part,
the feeling, but still don't really understand how they personally feel.
correct. Because and I had a conversation the other day with a friend of mine, and I just told him like, "Yo, you have to understand one thing in life. I don't care who you are, where you are, how old you are. Some way, somehow, we all go through the same thing.
Yep.
However, we go through the same thing at different times, and to get to the resolution of it or to get to an understanding of it, we're given and we take different paths to get to the end result of it.
Right.
And when I tell people that, they're like, "Well, what do you mean, Chris?" Exactly what I said. You could go through a death in your family. Like we all have experienced, it's sad to say, but we all have experienced the passing of a parent or a close family member. The
At
way
least
I
someone
dealt
we care for, someone close.
exactly.
Hmm.
Yep. The way I dealt with it is not the way that you dealt with it. But we have both dealt with death. So if we
And
both
even if
deal with
not of a person, death of a
mhm,
relationship, a job, a dream. You understand what I'm saying?
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
And you're speaking the truth. And as simple as that is, I've never thought about that. Losing a job,
Mm-hmm.
losing, getting out of a relationship, and being cheated on, and
Mm-hmm.
trying to find your way back to God, and and so many other things. We deal with tragedy in different ways, and I don't ever want to make things a race thing, and it always comes down to race.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't matter if you black, white, purple, blue, Indian, Mexican,
Say that.
whatever. It doesn't matter. We all have dealt with something, and
Mm-hmm.
if you cannot say, you know what, I understand where you're coming from, that and somebody else going through something that you went through, if you talk about it, depending on what it is, if you want to talk about it,
Right.
that might give you a solution to how you can deal with what you're currently going through.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that's just how I feel. But my book is just a testimony of what I'm doing. Like now I'm in the process of writing a second book. I'm in the process of doing a journal to kind of coincide with my book.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm just also being a life coach. I'm going for a second certification, and also a certification in NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming.
Think about that for a
To
minute. I was interested when I saw that. What? Tell me a little bit about that.
what the NLP
Mm-hmm.
is just honestly programming ourselves to think a different way.
Okay.
To put it in layman's terms, and with that, everybody has a process of like how they think. People process things on different wavelengths. People process things in different ways.
Right.
And my thing is, if you are open enough with yourself to figure out what's wrong, possibly how it went wrong, but more so figure out a solution,
Mm-hmm.
that's half the battle right there.
Absolutely.
W-
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
We don't we I feel like I'm not going to say I'm just going to say certain people struggle with affirmations toward themselves. They
Yes.
struggle with how they feel about themselves. But the biggest thing that we do not do, that we should try to do on a regular basis, is give ourselves some grace.
Say that again. Absolutely.
If God is giving us grace and waking us up every day,
Mm,
there's no reason why you cannot give yourself some grace and understanding of how you may feel. You may be overwhelmed. You may be stressed. You may be going through a divorce, losing a job, losing your car, whatever it is.
mm-hmm.
But if you sit down and you just be still for a little bit,
Yes. Yes.
people think being still is something that is bad. But when you're still, you're able to come
Mm.
in and be one with your thoughts.
You just said that and it made me think of it's a song and it's a saying. It says still waters run deep, right? And I'm
Mhm.
always taking something to another level. When because I realized, and like you said, when you're still, you get strategic divine downloads on how to become more powerful. And I'm thinking still waters run deep because it finds a way to navigate, or it plants itself in even lower and lower levels in order for it to
Mm,
become more of a powerful thing, right?
mhm.
And I'm just like, I never even looked at it that way, even though, I truly believe it. I am one who used to do, go, 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 gotta get this, gotta get it. And when I stopped, right, because that transfer to do that though was first of all having a transformed mind and thought process behind it, because process behind it, because being still for me, I thought meant stagnant, not productive,
Mm-hmm.
wasting and things of that nature. However, it really is, we have to realize this. We can't drive a car without stopping it for it to gas up, or it would just run out. So that's
Yep.
exactly how we are. We need to stop and fill up so that we can actually see where we're going. And we don't have to use as much energy or gas or whatever the case may be on the journey, because we'll navigate a path that's more straight without having to do U turns and reverses and all of that stuff.
Yep. And like us as people, we're like cell phones.
Hmm.
We need to recharge.
Yes.
We need
Yes.
to charge ourselves. No matter how you look at it, we put in so much work for other people, i.e., our jobs, i.e., our friends,
Yep.
but then we don't pour into ourselves.
Absolutely. And I say
And
this all the time.